All right, we have a new router. So this is our old one. Here is our new one. We are going to set it up and install Openwrt. So let's see what we can do. So first off, first thing I need to do is actually check and see what's the brand, right? So you need to know the brand and the model. All right, this is going to be important for later. So now let's jump onto the computer. All right, let's now on the computer. So now let's go ahead and head over to Openwrt. All right, so we're going to want to look for, let's go to downloads. Go on the Openwrt website, hit downloads. All right, now here's the thing, right? Of course, you want to go stable release builds before you ever do development. Now, the thing is that some routers, depending on how new they are, might not have a stable build release. They might have a development release. So one of the best things really to do to save you time is to just go to the table of hardware. Just go to the table of hardware, find your router. Just go to the table of hardware, find your router, your specific router type, router model, and then go from there. So we know the router, right? Router is a Dynalink. So it's a Dynalink, and the model was DL WRx. And really, like, if the router company that you have doesn't have too many routers, you could just probably just hit the brand and then hit enter. Like, for example, like you see this list of 8 devices. It's a funny name. 8 devices, right? Like, they don't look like they have many routers, so you could have just hit the name and hit enter. But in this case, let's just try it. Brand and model, see what it gives us. DL. And here we go, right? Here's our router. And it looks like as of right now, it only is supported in snapshot. So it doesn't have an actual stable firmware option quite yet. So what do we want to do, right? So I guess we are going to go ahead and download the install URL. Turned out I was completely wrong about the installation part. So here we see that. So for this particular router, there is a USB method for installation. Apparently you can't do it through the browser. You can't do it through the OEM like you could with other routers like Linksci. So we're going to go ahead and run through the installation section and try to get this. So off the bat, I'm going to need a USB. It looks like we need 3 things in order to get in. So it looks like the kernel, the image for installing Openwrt, and system upgrade for updating to the latest version if needed. So first thing I need to do is the firmware selector, right? When you go in the firmware selector, right, just make sure that you click snapshot and then type in the router model number, and boom, right, you'll get that. And then here's the thing, right, it'll ask you for either generic or Qualcomm. I'll be honest with you, I honestly don't know which one, so we're gonna go with Qualcomm because it just feels like that might probably be the right one. So with that being said, let's go ahead and grab the kernel. I'm going to make a new file and call this install. This time to keep my stuff clean here. Okay, so we have, all right, so here's the kernel. Here is the factory, and then here's the upgrade. What we're going to do is when we install Openwrt, we go inside Openwrt to do the upgrade. We're going to check to see what the firmware version is, because I'm pretty sure this is probably already the latest, and they just includes for people that might have had Openwrt installed, you know, prior to whatever's the latest update. So snapshot, so this is the snapshot. So let's keep that in mind. All right, so first thing it wants us to do, so option here, SSH. A pre-made backup config file, every SSH can be found at that. Upload it to the router, wait for the reboot, then log on using SSH as admin. So let's go ahead, let's grab this, copy. Oh, sorry, I don't know why I'm going to Google here. Let's go here. And that's right, if it could be the download config file right here worked for me. Ooh, this is, well, let's assume it's this. Hopefully the file is still even there. And cool, it is. Now, one of the cool things is that, like, you know, as far as the config file is concerned, when you flash Openwrt, right, flashing Openwrt will erase everything. So you don't necessarily have to worry about something crazy being in this config file. See, even Windows right here, see, it's telling me that it was blocked because it could be dangerous. All right, this is going into the router that we are about to flash. So Like if there was something crazy in here, it should be erased as far as I'm aware, right? Because flashing just like basically nukes everything as far as I know. So, all right, now go ahead and get back into the router. We are going to select the config file, backup.config, upload it, hit restore. All right, and then it says we're gonna SSH, and then here's the admin and then the password. I'm gonna go ahead and recopy that. All right, let's wait for the router to do its thing here. You see it's loading up. So go ahead and we will give that a second. All right, looks like it finished and it just kicked me out of the thing. So we can check to see if this happened if I try that password. Let's see, does that password let me in? And yeah, see, and that password does let me in. All right, cool. So now let's go ahead and let's SSH into the router. As you guys remember, right? Remember I told you Ethernet port status, and then just go to IP address, right, for the gateway. Remember, it's this IP address. This is what you need in order to SSH. So now how do you SSH? All you're going to do is you're just going to open up command prompt. So I'm going to open up command prompt and I'm going to just SSH, just say the word SSH, and then you're going to say admin at IP address that you want to SSH to. 681, right? Yeah, SSH, there you go, right? This is going to tell about authentication, just say yes, right? It's talking about fingerprints that you never tried to SSH into before. Now here it's asking for the admin password, which, like the guy said, was that hash key thing. So when you type in here, it's not going to show you anything you're typing. So just right click on the console once with if you have the password in your keyboard, in your clipboard, and then hit enter, and boom. All right, now we're in. All right, now let's see what's next. So next thing to do, change boot command so that it loads the intra FM image. Okay, so now here's the important thing, right? So look, we are installing the snapshot. Now, how do I know we're installing the snapshot? So because we selected this right here, right? We did snapshot and we selected Qualcomm. Now, if you actually look, I'm gonna actually back it up so you can see, right? See how it gives us generic and then it gives us Qualcomm. Okay, the file, because if I look at the two, like these two commands are essentially the same, with just the exception of where it says generic and one says Qualcomm. Generic IP07, Qualcomm IPQ 807. All right, so we are going to go and boot up this version right here. So first, let's go ahead and do this here. Now I have my USB drive. Let me actually grab that real quick. Let's go ahead and we're going to copy that Qualcomm file. So just make sure that's just the one you're copying. All right. So if you need to know, right, that was Qualcomm. That was this first one. That was the kernel. So the kernel file is the one that we are putting onto the flash drive. So I just threw it on here. All right. And like I said, just, it doesn't hurt to triple check, make sure you're putting the right ones. So again, this is what the file we're looking for here. And then if I look here, I look here for this, that matches that, all right? 807X, all right, Dynalink, DL, yes, right, that's an exact match. So we know this is the correct right file. And I have it right here on the root of the flash drive. All right, what's next? So now it wants us to actually run this command. Oh, and then they see, already about to mess up. All right, let's go ahead now and actually copy this. All right, and then hit reboot. So now the first thing I'm gonna just go ahead and do and just get it out the way is I'm going to go ahead, eject the USB drive out. I'm going to now plug it up to the router. And one way I can check and make sure that it indeed work is I can then sign back into the where is it? There you go, right? So yeah, see, flash drive is up, is on there, it's good. Okay, now let's go ahead and let's paste that command via earlier. Moment of truth. Hit enter. Okay, and then next thing it says is just hit reboot. I'll just type that in. All right, reboot. Okay, router is now going to assume reboot. Yeah, see connection closed, so it is now rebooting. Okay, continue to part 2 of the installation guide. All right, so we're going to SSH again, but this time we got to note the new IP address. All right, so I'm just going to press the up arrow on the keyboard, and it's going to re-add the previous command I had put in prior to SSHing, so that way I could just go ahead and just change the last sentence here. And like I did 1.1, and it's already asking me to same stuff, right? So because this is a new device, it doesn't recognize the same things before. I assume password is still the same. So let me recopy this here, right click one time, hit enter, password permission denied. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to assume it's Openwrt's default admin password. Openwrt default password. All right. Root, this is the administrator only user. And for password, leave this blank for your first connection. Okay, so let's give that a shot. So we're actually instead going to here. Let's hit root. All right. And there's no root password. Okay, so we are in Openwrt. So my bad. All right, now let's actually go ahead and get into it. All right, now we're SCP, right? So we're going to file transfer the factory image. So now we're going to SCP the file to the router. So easiest way to actually do that is you're going to open up a new console. So if I just right click the command prompt here, open up a new console, I'm going to CD to where I have the location file. So, CD and then right click, space right click the console, right, to pre-fill in what you got. Oops, I have the file name already here. So let me just kill that. All right, cool. All right, and so now that I'm there, right, I know what the file name is, and so now what we're going to do is we are going to now just SCP. I used ChatGPT here just to make sure I wasn't crazy because I was having some issues here, but this is like the easiest way to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to just simply SCP. All right, so you're going to SCP the file. So SCP, then you're going to hit the file name, which in this case, right, is go up here, factory. All right. All right. And then we're going to then hit the router, right? Which as we saw earlier, right, was root at 192.168.1.1. And then we're going to then specify the location. All right. So let me go ahead and so space root at 168.1.1 and colon slash. All right, that's new for me. And boom, there we go. Right, so it is now on there, right? Because see, it transferred, did it pretty quickly. All right, so we copied the factory file onto the router, so it's in there in the temp. All right, so now what we're going to need to do is now we are going to ubi format the locations, right? So let's double check here, right? So we had catted, all right? So when we catted the NTD partition, right, we saw that NTD 18 and 20 is root FS, right? So that's what we want to make sure we're doing. I guess this means that in case of your device showed that it was at different locations, you would make sure you specify those different locations in MTD, right? So what I'm going to do now is I am going to go ahead and copy this all the way up to the temp slash portion here. I don't think I need this anymore, so I'll just close that. I'm going to right click the temp, right? And then I'm going to re-grab the file name again, right? Which I could just go here to do it because that's what should be in that on the router. And I am going to then hit right click. And now we're going to hit enter, right? MTD 18, right? Check one more time, right? That's the root FS. And then we're going to do 20 right after for the other one. So let's do that. Cool. I'm going to press the up arrow now, like so. And whoa, what just happened? Okay, there you go. I don't know why it moved me like that. And then now I'm gonna come back over here to the side, and change this now to 20. I wish it stopped moving like that. It's freaking me out. All right, there we go. We're at 20. Now I'm gonna hit enter. All right, now we set the boot variable. So let's do this. All right click, enter, right? That's FW sent, whatever. All right, cool. Get offset of NA to the determine current REM slot. So let's go here, run these directions, like such. Says this number, okay? If current OEM slot is, so it's the second one, so this is the number I guess we need. Set U-boot environment variable. So if current OEM slot is 1, which now its current OEM slot is 2, so it's going to be 2. So we're going to grab this. All right, so let's go ahead and grab that. Copy, right click, and enter. Cool. Now set U-boot environment variable. So now we're going to do this. Copy that right here. Cool. Right click that, enter. Nice. And then now we're finally going to reboot, and then it is going to reboot the router. But before we do that, what I want to do is the USB recovery thing, right? So it says here that the final boot command above can be modified to always try boot from USB first, right? This is optional. So what I'm going to want to do is I'm going to SSH into the router. I'm going to reboot it, SSH into the router, right? And then we're going to set this, run these commands to make sure it's going to boot from USB first before actually doing anything else, right? And that's going to be important, you guys. Like, it is super important to always try to set up like some kind of recovery, some type of like backup recovery option for you whenever possible to prevent, the unthinkable should you mess something up, which is a router that won't work no more. So we're going to hit reboot. And so now, right, if I go to the Ethernet plug here, all right, so it's rebooting. So we're gonna wait and see what happens there. I'm gonna just wait for it. Okay, it is loading on up. So all right, let's go ahead and look. So okay, so default gateway is back to 216.1. So already off the bat, that's telling me that something might not have worked properly, but we will see. Oh, never mind. See, I guess I just had to refresh it. See? Okay, so yeah, so we're good. Whew, man, I was worried for a second. Yeah, if the IP address is not this, because this is the default for Openwrt, something went wrong, right? And as you can see me, right, I guess it was just, I must have just had something old up and it just gave me the same thing. Oh, man. All right, let's go ahead now. And 1.1. See what we get. And it refused to connect. Let's see if we can SSH into said router. Okay. And okay, we're having an issue. We might have to go in there and delete the keys. Okay. So because we connected to this router before and the device has changed because we flashed it, right? It's telling me that like some keys don't match, right? And so what you're just going to do is you're going to go back to you're going to go to the root of your file here, and then you're going to look for where it says .ssh, known host. I am going to, I'll just delete the whole thing. Let me just delete the whole file, all right? Just delete the whole file, all right? I mean, if you want to sit there and edit it and try to find the ones, though, you can do that. I'm not going to. Let's do that, right? So see, now it's letting me go through, and then boom, right? Now I'm in the route. So what we need to do now is we are going to go ahead and try and install the Lucy GUI. What more than likely happen is that the factory image doesn't come with the GUI. I wish they would like kind of let you know that, but that's what I'm assuming it's what's wrong, because see, we SSH into the router just fine. It's a fresh install, so it shouldn't be anything wrong. So I am going to run the commands to install the GUI. So let me just grab those real quick, and then we'll we'll get back to it. All right, let's go ahead and now install the Lucy package. Now I had to connect my router to the actual internet because I was doing all this directly to the computer, which I recommend, because if you ever need to jump on the internet to do something that's while you're working on the router, that the router doesn't then keep you from accessing the internet, right? So whenever you get a new router, hopefully you're doing this on a computer that has an Ethernet port and a Wi-Fi configuration. So that way you are actually able to connect to your old router via Wi-Fi, connect to the new router via Ethernet port, and that way you can work on it and then jump on the internet when you need. And then lastly now, right, we can connect the new router to the old router via the Ethernet port, so that the new router has the internet for us to now make the final configuration changes, all right? So now what I'm going to do is I am going to now run OPKG update, right? So this would help if I get the O. All right. Oh, not recognized. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. My in connecting the router, I accidentally turned it off. So let's go ahead and get back into the router. Okay, so we're SSH back into the router. And now let's actually do OPKG update. So let's OPKG update. Give that a second. I'm just grabbing all of the stuff here. Cool. That's said and done now. Now let's go ahead and we're going to do OPKG install Lucy. All right. So install Lucy. This should get our GUI up on the Openwrt router. So that's going to take a second there. All right, cool. So that should work. So now let's try this again. So if I try to go into the router, and boom, right, we're in root. We can log in, and there we go. We are now, here it is, babies. We are in the router, and yeah, everything looks all right. So now we're going to move on to the last part here. Now we need to go ahead and enable the USB booting. Right. So if you recall, actually, I'm gonna just move this tab over here. Right. If you recall, there's a USB recovery method that we can do. Right. So let us go ahead, and you want to double check for this here. Right. You want to make sure that it is going to be the same name, right, as the file you used earlier, right, which we had used the Qualcomm, right, the Qualcomm set, right, not the generic. So see, we already was going about to be set up for failure. So I'm going to go ahead and copy these. So let me just go over here, right? So let's start with this here. Let me copy this. I am going to have to re-SSH back into the router, right? Because I changed. And of course, the IP address changed too, right? So let me, well, come on. So let's go at that, right? And then I'm going to have to redo my password here. Just remember, while you're typing, you're not going to see nothing on the console. Boom. All right, cool. I'm in. All right. So now first thing I'm going to copy those first two commands, right? Yeah, so let's copy those first two commands. One in bash crc using default and environment. See that? Okay, guys, after double checking, it turns out that the that boot crc error is actually common and normal, and it is fine. So we go ahead and continue. As you saw, I already did this one, and now we need to do the last one. But remember what I said, right? Remember, right? If you didn't use the generic, you need to change that to the actual other file that you use. So I'm going to go ahead and let me come here. I'm going to go ahead. Let me zoom that down a little bit here. I'm going to paste that, and we are going to change that generic to Qualcomm, right? Because that's the one that I know I would use. if I'm going to recover, which I guess in reality it really doesn't matter, because remember, so just to reiterate, this is just to boot off of the USB drive, right? So technically it doesn't matter which file you use, or which file you set this to. Just make sure that whatever you set it to, that's the actual file you will have on the USB drive if you're going to choose to do this recovery method. So, all right, so we're going to change that to Qualcomm X, right? Being super careful not to, press anything else anywhere. Hit enter, and that's it. It's done. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. So we are good to go, guys. There's nothing else for us to do. Like I said, we're in the router, and the router is working as expected. I'm going to install my packages, and then move on with life. So thank you guys. And if there's any questions, just put it in the comment section, and I will try to help you guys out as best I can. Like I said, this particular router model is not easy. It's not as easy as like some of the other ones, and just like installing to get Openwrt up and running. But like I said, you just SSH into it, run those install commands, and you should be good to go. And most importantly, please don't forget to just set up that USB recovery, because I'm telling you, like when you're on the bleeding edge of this kind of stuff here, like things tend to go wrong. So setting up your snap methods, right, having those already in place at the right point in time, I'm telling you, it can save you a whole lot of trouble later on. So thank you guys again, and take care.